Billie Eilish is great, yes, but most people think it's because she's so weird and quirky or because her music is so popular. But that's not all. Billie Eilish is part of a cyclical and artistic movement that happens about every 5 years or so. Basically, everyone gets comfortable with a specific kind of music, then something new and exciting and awesome like Billie Eilish comes along, and then everybody tries to copy it. The copying chokes out all the artistic novelty and interestingness, and then someone else with a new sound comes along and everybody tries to copy that instead. I video chatted Charlie and Nate from the Switched on Pop podcast to see what they thought about this cycle and Billie Eilish's role in it.
Pop music is always changing in waves. I think so often, yeah, people are looking for new sounds. As something becomes too dominant, it fades out on the hype cycle and something else comes along. And it's not surprising that somebody who on Instagram looked different than all of the other things that were going on also sounds different. And that I think is refreshing. And I'm sure she's establishing a new aesthetic. Many people are starting to copy it. And in 5 years, someone's going to do something else.
Right.
Nirvana showed the world the power of grunge. Mumford & Sons brought back folk music. Eminem proved white people could rap. Lorde did art pop better than anyone ever had or ever will. And 21 Pilots showed what deep lyrics in pop songs could do. After each of these, the genre goes mainstream and everybody tries to copy them. How many white rappers appeared after Eminem? How many copies of 21 Pilots are there right now? Chainsmokers. And now, Billie Eilish and her brother Phineas are bringing something new to the table and showing us exactly what's possible. They're showing us it's possible to do bedroom pop well on a national listening scale and a national marketing scale. People like it, and they can make money off of it. But I'm not a musical expert, so I went back to Switched on Pop to ask them exactly what makes her music so great.
You know, I think I remember the first time I saw a picture of her and I was like, oh, this music is not gonna be for me. You know, I already know I'm too old to understand this. And yet, when we listened in depth to her album, you know, I think what continually surprised us was how sort of timeless a lot of her music and her lyrics are. Musically, she creates this sound world with her co-writer and her brother, Phineas, that really stands out among popular music because, as Charlie was saying, it's kind of minimal. It can be very dark. It can use sounds from everyday life.
She's doing something in which her sound doesn't feel like it ought to fit on the billboard. She's often breaking conventions of where a chorus belongs, or not even including a chorus in her song. At the same time, her and her brother Phineas are really masterful at using the language and sort of the cliches of pop to insert a joke or to make some sort of commentary.
Basically, Billie Eilish and Phineas are important in the progression of music because they're doing it well while still shocking and surprising listeners with this new sound that they've created. But for me personally, what makes Billie Eilish special is her lyrics, and this goes back to another cycle mentioned by John Seabrook in his book The Song Machine. In there, he talks about how what's popular in music cycles through about every 5 years or so, alternating between corporately produced music and independently produced music. People are really enjoying their grunge, underground, awesome niche music, and then they get a little bit tired of it and they say, oh, you know, I want something that's a little more professional, and some big pop star comes along and everybody's excited about that. People get tired of the paid songwriters and the staged pop stars with shallow lyrics and they say, oh, I want something more, you know, deep and interesting and like underground, and then that kind of ends up kind of blowing over a little bit and it's not as exciting as it was once, and they go back to the big stuff. In the 90s, we fluctuated between grunge rock bands and hugely popular boy and girl bands. In the 2000s, we had a huge revival of folk music led by Mumford & Sons, competing with this giant movement of dance songs from Britney Spears and the Black Eyed Peas. And in the last decade, we took a step back from Katy Perry, Taylor Swift, and Ariana Grande in favor of an artist like Billie Eilish, who records her own music and writes her own lyrics in her bedroom. I had to ask Nate and Charlie what they thought about this.
Empirically, I feel like, yeah, this is a moment where people, listeners are engaged more than ever in interpreting and reinscribing song lyrics. Perhaps Billie Eilish's success is due in part to this sort of, the openness of the lyrics and the ability to come in and say, oh, well, I read it this way, and someone else to say, no, I read it that way. And those conversations are increasingly more and more a part of the musical landscape. For better or worse now, it's a back and forth between artists and receivers, artists and fans, artists and audiences. That is something we'll have to continue to think about.
Billie Eilish is massively popular right now because she's doing several things correctly. Her and her brother's musical craft is unique and well done, but homemade enough to not seem too corporate. Their lyrics are vulnerable and honest enough in a way that keeps young listeners listening even after they're hooked by the great tunes. And I honestly think that's what makes her a special phenomenon, that combination of incredibly interesting and weird music that's so good to listen to, combined with unusually deep and meaningful lyrics. At least that's why I like listening to Billie Eilish. But tell me, why do you like listening to her? Help me to understand and to learn. And please, thank Nate and Charlie for coming on the show, and don't forget to check out their new book.
I'm songwriter Charlie Harding.
And I'm musicologist Nate Sloan.
And we're the hosts of the podcast Switched on Pop. We recently wrote the book Switched on Pop, How Popular Music Works and Why It Matters. And this is really a guide to contemporary popular music in which we pair some of the most important songs of the last 20 years with the musical concepts that define them to help you better hear what makes a great song.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Thank you, Nate and Charlie, and I'll talk to you guys next time.